Hey there. Hey, there is somebody in here. Can you hear me okay? This is a spur of the moment thing. I thought I'd get in here and do a little talking, practice a little bit. Hopefully, you can hear me. Tea time. I like that. Yeah, it's almost tea time, isn't it? Well, there's not a lot going on today, but been a lot going on. Thanks. Lou, is it? Probably got all that wrong. I'm not good with names. We'll see if some more folks come in. But while you guys are here, if you got any questions or anything like that, just throw them out there. Let's see if I can answer anything that you might have. Let's see. I'm gonna find my here. I got to turn you. Well, no arrest today. How about that? Isn't that something? No arrest. Is there ever going to be an arrest in this case? I think it's going to be a while. One of the things I wanted to talk about today was something I said on my last video at the end. A lot of times people don't make it to the end. So, uh, is why all this news is happening now and what does it all mean? And I have a little contrary, I'm contrary anyway. I'm contrarian. When I trade stocks, I'm a contrarian. Yeah. A man named Anthony, person of interest. No, I haven't heard of this. Where did you hear that? Was that from Brian Enton? Um, haven't heard that one. But there's so many channels now and so many sources, and of course the mainstream media is not doing much of anything. Brian Enton's about the only guy you can depend on to have something. Uh, Brenda, I don't know who Brenda is. I haven't heard of Anthony. Do you have any idea where they came up with him? Oh, Brenda Investigations. Is she a channel, Brenda Investigation? Or is she a private investigator or anything? Do you know? Well, I don't know who it is. Oh, she's a private investigator. I'll have to look that up if I can. She's got a YouTube channel too. Oh, she got a podcast. Okay. Let me look, see if I can find that. I can type the right thing. Okay. Well, hello, Elizabeth from Texas. How are you doing? How's the weather out in Texas? Y'all have a drought like we do? Ashley Banfield's super source went super silent almost 4 weeks ago. Wow. No, I didn't know that. I don't. These sources are something. I don't know how much you can. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to anybody who's in there. I'm kind of practicing along with. I was going to do some stuff here today for a while and see what happens with if we can come up with something. So far, we come up with Anthony from Brenda Investigates, huh? Brenda Investigations. All right. I don't know who that is. Well, I can't quite figure that out right now. If you give me some better information. Well, that's of course what's been said. And something was in that guy's backpack. Now, was it some kind of jammer? Um, or was it, to me, I don't, a jammer's pretty thick. Something was in there that was pretty thick. And my opinion is it's heavy. Some other folks had told me they didn't think it looked that heavy, but I thought it looked heavy. And I thought maybe they had a laptop computer in there. And then, of course, there's a couple other sites they've done some things. They thought there was a drone in there, and a whole bunch was done on that drone thing. But something was in that backpack, and of course, we're all speculating. We don't know, but it looked like the shape of a computer. So I was speculating whether or not whoever went in there, were they all that time they were in there with her, were they trying to get into her accounts and things like that to maybe empty out her bank accounts. I don't know. It's all speculation. So who knows? The I think what's going on now with all this information. Hey there, Paige. How are you doing? Is there's a lot of times when things go quiet. Actually, and maybe that's Ashley Banfield's source has gone quiet because they think something's happening or they're keeping their mouth shut, which is what they should do. Let's hope that's what it is, and let's hope people like myself who are guessing and speculating wrong uh, are wrong, and that they do have a suspect, and they're gonna move on him pretty quick. I mean, that's the goal. It's not really. This isn't about, as far as I'm concerned, it's not about me being right. And I hope a lot of the other YouTubers have got the same attitude. It's not about us being right. It's about finding Nancy. And of course, I don't think she's going to be alive now, but that's what it's about. It's not really about us being right or anything. But I think what's really going on with all that, it's different than whatever, this past week when they dumped all this information on us. A whole lot of people got excited, man. They were running around. Some of the streamers were running around and, saying something's happening. They wanted to go out to the house and all that. Hey, I did notice a mainstream media person out at the house yesterday from one of the local TV stations is standing in front of the Guthrie driveway giving their report. I wondered, did the sheriff come out there to check them out? Anyway, I think all this is everybody was excited. It's in the upper 90s there in Texas. That's the way it is here. Well, I'm in South Carolina. And then we've had such a drought. It's unbelievable, the drought we've had so little rain this summer. And I raised cattle, not a lot. I got a small herd, only 12 now. I was up to 20. I had to sell some off. We don't have enough grass because the grass is dying off. But anyway, I think what's going on is instead of something big fixing to happen, I think it's something absolutely different than that. I think it is a last ditch effort, or as my thumbnail there on this is, Nanos' last stand. you know, like Custer's last stand. This is a desperate attempt to make something happen here at the 6 month mark before everything, turns upside down and this case goes cold after 12 months. So you say there's a real suspect. Bryant is being the first one. Maybe JLR. I'm not sure. He's in Tucson right now. Is JLR in Tucson right now? Or is it, you mean Brian Enton? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a desperate attempt to get something going. That's fine. If that's what it takes, they should have done all this before. They should have released these notes that they just released last week. There was no reason for them not to release those notes. And the information that they released on that media release about what to look for, that's similar to a profile that you get from the FBI. Now, you'll notice on this case here, you have not gotten a profile from the FBI. What does a profile normally do? It says you look for it's a white male, let's say, or a Hispanic male or a black male. Usually they identify a race, okay? And then they'll identify an age range, like from 25 to 40 or something like that, or younger, whatever they come up with an age range. Then they'll give you information about what kind of work they think they do. This is based on their years of study and interviews and everything else in studying. Now, here's the thing that most people don't understand. The FBI does not give profiles. I mean, it's very, very rare to give a profile on a single case. They just don't do it because there's not enough information. They look for patterns. They look for serial murder cases, and then they can establish a pattern and from what they know and what they've studied all these years. Now, none of that stuff is foolproof. Don't kid yourselves. It's not foolproof. But if you'll notice on this case here, which is big, high-profile case, the FBI has not come out with a profile. Why not? Now what we have, I call it a body composite. Watching from New Zealand. Wow, that's awesome. Well, thanks, New Zealand. Let's see. I haven't seen that, Elizabeth. There's a lot of things out there. Now, y'all got to be careful. I'll just remind you of this. There's a bunch of these AI sites that are just flat making up things and lies and everything else. I mean, I've looked at a lot of them and studied them. Now, if you can, they'll even have somebody's head on there like myself, or some person. Usually it's some guy who's a good orator or something like that, or it'll be a no face page. You don't see any face of anyone. Okay. And if you'll watch those things, you can tell it's AI. What they do is they do the same face movements. The guy buzzes his eyes and he'll go like this. He'll do the same movements over and over and over and over again. And then it's he's just talking and he's spewing. And then in the background or along with it, they'll have pictures of all these things. And a lot of that's just plain lies. And they suck people in with these headlines, and it's just plain lies. So you got to be careful about that, where you get your information from on some of that stuff. I know a lot of people have been drawn into that. I've been asked a bunch of questions about some of that. First thing I ask them back is, where did you get that? So let's see here. Which old school TV serial? Oh my goodness. Oh, I don't know. Which old school law enforcement? Hey, Joe Friday, right? From Dragnet. Just the facts, man. Just the facts. Just the facts, man. That's kind of the way I am. Now, that goes way back, y'all. Uh, I'm a kind of just the facts person. You know, uh, I don't have a lot of fluff in me. I want the facts. Now I try to be gracious and gentle with people when you're talking to them and all that kind of stuff. You know, and you got to understand people. But yeah, I'm a just the facts guy. Don't usually waste a lot of talk, which is what I got to get used to on this streaming stuff. And I got to get used to how to do some of this stuff. You know, I was going to bring in somebody here that I was going to say, but I don't want to bore y'all with a long thing here with Nanos. Oh my goodness, what a guy. I think Nanos has done a tremendous job, really tremendous job of messing this case up from the get go. Right from the absolute get go, he has messed this case up. And a lot of people think, you know, uh, that a lot of people think the FBI wants to take this case. No, Cash Patel does not want this case. No way. It is so messed up now. You know, it's like a tractor trailer run off the road and all messed up, and you want to get this guy to come get in it and drive it away. It's not going to happen. He is not going to do it. Hey, Vicky, there you go. You caught a live one. How about that? Uh, Anthony Burroughs' full name is. Oh, this is the guy, huh? Anthony Burroughs is the full name. She posted on Brenda Investigates. BCE Investigates, huh? Well, that's curious. I'll have to look that up later and see what she's saying. That's interesting. Did she say how she come up with that? She getting it from somebody, or is she actually doing some investigation herself? Let me write that down on a piece of paper. All right. I'll look that up later, or some of y'all might want to look it up, see what you can figure out, see if there's anything to it. But, unless law enforcement is on their tail. That's the other thing with these leads. I did a thing on the leads, and I don't think people understand. And I've even got some things I can pull up here that are so contradictory. Uh, no, I cannot. Tea time. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine Nanos on the stand. I don't want to imagine Nanos on the stand. It's going to be an embarrassment to all law enforcement all over the world. I don't think if there's any way they can keep him from getting on the stand, the prosecution will. The prosecution's not going to use him, that's for sure. And but the defense will. If the defense can get him on the stand, they will use him, and it won't be good. Nanos, he contradicts himself so often. They could play all these clips in court. This is why a guy needs to be careful about what he says. When I say a guy, I mean somebody, whoever's in charge, whoever's doing the talking, because they'll play these clips back in court and say, "What about this? What about when you said this? What about when you said these people aren't involved? What about when you said what changed?" And they will go after him something fierce. Uh, Captain Mumble Jumble. I can't say too much. Sometimes I mumble myself. So, uh, yeah, yeah. he stutters and staggers around, but so do I sometimes. When you're trying to think of the right thing to say, you try not to say the wrong thing. But he just says way too much too often, and it's creating a big problem. Listen, I've been in depositions. A lot of times you end up and you don't testify in court as often as you might think because they get pleaded out a lot of times. And they get pleaded out because they go through, the defense gets all the evidence, and then the defense also gets to depose you, which means they get to bring you in, swear you in, and they ask you all the questions they want to ask you under oath. And then that means that when you go to court, it's really hard to change whatever you said. Really hard. I mean, you can get away with it, but one of my favorite things was I used to do a lot of depositions in drug cases, but the attorney would ask me about this or that, and I say, "Well, I can't recall it this time." Now, usually that was the truth, but I said that so many times. That's one attorney who's a hot shot attorney. He says, "Well, what time are you going to be able to recall it?" So anyway, my point is, when you go to one of those depositions, they rake you over the coals in that deposition. You better have yourself together, and you better have your case together, because you can't change your testimony later. If you change your testimony later, you try to change your testimony later, they will come after you and make you look like a fool in court. And out goes the case. Well, I think that's what's going to happen. In a Nanos' situation. Let's see here. Boomer, why hasn't the family had a press conference in 6 months? Not one press conference. I totally agree. There's no reason why they shouldn't be out front on this, really. And, I've said before that the whole billboard thing and the flyers and all that kind of stuff, that needs to be done. And there's no reason why Savannah can't do it herself, her and her family. All right. So her and her family need to be out there, but at least she needs to be out there. She's the celebrity, and she could get out there and lead the way. Yeah, I probably said this before because I talk about it, and some people said, "You talk about that case too much." One lady said, "You must have been seriously affected by that case." Oh, lady, you don't know how much I've been affected by a lot of cases. But there are certain cases you don't ever forget. But in that case, there, I used billboards a couple of times on the case, and the last time I used billboards was when we closed the case from those particular billboards, which we put up handwriting on the billboards, which was evidence that nobody knew about. All right, it was handwriting that we believed probably came from the suspect. So we put that up. But I did a big media splash. I did a number of press conferences over the years that we had that, and I learned a bunch of things. And one is the media wants something new all the time. So you need to give them something new or they won't play. So in that case there, it was a matter of putting those billboards up, and I had a county commissioner from Pinellas County come out. Yeah, I saw the interviews of Luke Daly and his mother and all. It's hard to say on all that stuff. Anyway, I had them come out. I made a big splash out of it, and it went in the media. Now, the lady who called in on it, she didn't see the billboard itself. What she saw was the media splash on the news and in the newspaper and all that kind of stuff, where they printed it on the front page of the newspaper and all that. So that's what they need to do. How hard is that? It's not hard. she's a media person. So Luke Daly and his mother, you know, I don't know if they've been ruled out. They did like Nanos, you could play back a lot of those playbacks he recently did, and he said that none of these people are ruled out. And I think now he did come out just flat out in the last day or so and say the family is not involved. You know, all right. So he's trying to make that clear, but then he says so many different things. It's hard to figure out. But he's saying just because we did a search warrant or just because of this and just that doesn't mean you ruled out. It just means we don't have anything right now. So it could be that one of those things could be that it's one of those people. I don't know. You know, what are you saying there, Paige? Is the answer question I actually can. Okay. Uh, man, let's see here. Right. Yeah, right. You're right. Western Hemisphere. You can't do the simplest things. And if you're a sheriff and you can't stand before, uh, a crowd and give a legitimate press conference without all the things he does, it's not good. Y'all ever watch the sheriff down in Florida? He's on all the time. I forget his name right now. He is super. Uh, okay, Jules. Wow, thank you. Thanks. I don't understand all that quite all the way, but I appreciate it. Uh, Somebody had a question. I missed it. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, Nanis in his YouTube interview. I got that up here actually, but it's a joke. It's a joke to for him to have that. I mean, he's getting this is beyond softball questions. I mean, somebody's laying it up there on a t-ball uh, post for him so he can hit it off. My goodness. You know, I don't know how these guys that have these big channels and they have all this chat going. They can't do it without moderators and people like that helping them out. Whoever promoted him. Well, he got elected sheriff. It's an elected thing, and he wasn't promoted by, a mayor or governor or anybody. He was elected. And from what I understand, that area is heavily one party, and he's that party. So he had a lot of support from that party to get elected. So and then there was a lot of shenanigans, and I guess now he's even being investigated for some of that stuff uh, that he did. And then something's gone before the state attorney there. They don't call them state attorneys, but anyway, to try and charge him. So I doubt if that'll work. There's too much political power there that's all the same, and I doubt if it'll work. That's how it works in the politics of it all. I agree with you. They should get him out, but they tried to get him out on a recall vote, but you couldn't get enough people to sign, and then they make that whole thing so impossible, so absolutely impossible. Hey, yeah, it was nice. I was on those of you who don't know, I was on 857 Tucson last night. We had a good little discussion. I hadn't actually been on there before, but he helped me out a lot in the beginning, kind of get started. So I actually came on there just to thank him for helping me get going. Old Mr. Nanos. These people don't have a clue what they're in for on this case. It's I mean, you already see how bad it is. They can't I don't want it's not the investigator's fault. It's Nanos's fault, and then the staff that he has below him, and the leadership there, and the management of that investigative team. Now, the other thing that they're fooling everybody about, and that is that they're and that's one of these clips I had up here that I was going to show, but that he says they say that they got they want to they double talk about everything, but they say they have this team of it's a task force. Do you know that task force is smaller than the task force that I had for the big case I was talking about, which wasn't even in comparison to this one as far as that goes. I know they have less than 12 when it comes to the FBI and the sheriff's office. They're cutting them back. He talks about that already. Yeah, he did do that, but that's a tit for tat. My thumbnail is that it's Nanos facing Cash Patel, and Cash Patel's got his finger up there pointing back at Nanos, saying, "No, it's your case, buddy." That's what he's saying. It's your case. No, I'm not taking this thing. So now we got this tit for tat going on. We got this tit for tat going on where you know Cash Patel released that picture of the porch guy without telling the sheriff either. Now the sheriff's doing back to him. Why do you think Nanos did it? Well, he made an explanation that's pretty okay. And he said, that it had already been basically released by the young lady who worked for that news channel. And then she went on a podcast channel and released what it said. She didn't give it out the way Nanos gave it out, which was just a little bit more detailed. It also had the Bitcoin address in it. And both addresses in both the first note and the second note were the same. Those got left in there, and that's something the young lady didn't reveal to us. So that makes the two notes in a way connected. If you look at that, it's the Bitcoin address is the same. So to me, other than the whole note thing, people have gone crazy over the note, but that's the most solid part that we got right now is that both of those notes are attached with the same Bitcoin address. Now, that's not to say somebody couldn't have known that somehow and contrived that up and came up with the second note, but I would think now, why did he do it? Well, he said because it's already out. Why shouldn't we? Well, I totally agree. Why shouldn't you have done it in the first month, in the first weeks? There was really no reason not to do that. There really wasn't any reason not to do it. There was nothing in those notes that would have uh, damaged the case, so to speak. Not really. But it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, when you're in the middle of it as an investigator or as a task force or as a supervisor supervising these things. When you're in the middle of it, it looks different than when you're back looking off later. I mean, I can tell you that in that big case I worked, it's the same thing. And I had people ask me after that, why didn't y'all release that earlier? Well, it's a long, long drawn out answer to that, but we didn't. So we did. But when we did, I mean, we had a good feeling that was going to be it. But you know what? One of the traditional things that homicide investigators do is you keep everything close to the vest and you do not release very much because you want to have everything that the potential suspect doesn't know that you have. And then, believe it or not, you got people who will come in and admit to it or make up lies and stuff. So the more you keep closer in, that's why they shouldn't be telling us what's on the inside. I had uh, Tucson last. I call him Tucson. I know he's got a different name. I love Tucson. You know, like old westerns too. The lost my train of thought there for a second. I think you do things sometimes, and then you look back on it later though, and you go, "Wow, I could have done this earlier." Well, I think that's what they got going on with this. They could have done it. It's easy for us to look back now, look at it, and say, "You should have released that," and I think they should have. Really, I mean, they waited way long. That's also why I believe, because I experienced this in my own case, and that was we had at the end we had a desperation move. It was a desperation move to release that handwriting out to the media and out to the press and put it up on billboards because we were about to be disbanded. And that's what's going to happen to these guys, and when they hit the 1 year mark. So why not go for it? You got nothing to lose in reality. So that's what I think's going on. His is Nanos's last stand. So he's releasing everything possible that he can release that would maybe bring somebody in. You know, let's see what here this says here. Release. Oh yeah, okay, we got that. All right. Sorry guys, I might not be keeping up with this thing too good because I'm not in practice with all this, but I can. Let's see, Vicky, wonder why released them, not yet. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is another myth I want you to know. The FBI is not in charge. They're not in charge. Nanos is in charge. We all think we want the FBI to be in charge. It would have been good if they would have been in charge from the beginning. It would have been good if they would have let them play in the first 4 days. That means all that's already out there that, there's probably evidence lost in the cameras and all if they would have allowed FBI to come in there, but they didn't. So why didn't they? It's all about ego. And then, Nanos had, stump to grind on old FBI because the FBI tried to get him on some other stuff years before. So he don't like the FBI. So, these are realities of people, of personalities. Don't think that these quote professionals don't have egos and don't have personalities and all this kind of stuff, because they do. I try not to be one of those people, okay? But I've seen it. I've seen it a lot. And so that's what you got going on there. Why, what should be a simple thing turns out to be a big thing because of egos between it's Nanos's fault. It's not Cash Patel's fault. You go back to the Iowa killings of the 4 girls and the suspect there, just went blank on his name, Kohlberger. Okay, he in that case, the chief of police there, got in there. He realized he was in over his head real quick. All right, it's a small agency, Moscow police. So, but what did he do? I don't know if he reached out first or there was an FBI guy that reached out to him. He said, "Come on, help us out." And I mean, and in no time at all, in the first 24 hours, they had 25 FBI people there to help them out. And then their whole forensic team and all that kind of stuff. They didn't even try to be the ones that processed that scene. Thank goodness. So, that guy showed me he's got the right kind of ego. And that is he's not too proud to ask for help, especially from Grady Judd. That's it. That guy's a hoot. I love him. That's a real sheriff now. Grady Judd. Oh man. Oh man. So anyway, that's what should have been done here. Why wasn't it done? I mean, you had the president of the United States, whether you like him or don't like him, it don't matter. He's still the president of the United States. You had the president of the United States saying, we'll send all of our troops there to help you. All of every last thing we can muster up, we'll send it. And Nanos goes, no, I don't need it. Nah, I don't need it. We got it. We got it. We got it covered. Oh my goodness. Clown is right. A clown juggling grenades. That's pretty good. Oh, now, unless you're talking about me, then I am juggling grenades, trying to run this thing. Oh my goodness. Nanos high school scholarship was for drama acting. Are you kidding me? You're just kidding. You got to be kidding. Well, I never had any drama acting courses, but you know what? I was an undercover narcotics for 8 years. And that's all that is. When you go out to do a deal and you do stuff, and some of them are, all day or days where you're with the bad guys, you're acting the whole time. The whole time. It's not like you do one scene and they say cut. No, you're acting the whole time. And according to how you act might mean whether or not you live or not. I mean, we had one guy that was got made on a deal. He thought he was going to die. They pulled guns on him, took him in a room, going to kill him. And we're all listening on a bug. He was bugged up. Anyway, that was a mess. But we got him out. So you're acting. So if Nanos is acting, he's pretty bad. He's pretty bad. I'm telling you. Uh, yeah. Well, that's the bad news about all that is this is where we're at. I hate the phrase and this. It is what it is, but that's it. It is what it is. It is what it is, and their failures. I was doing a whole series on that, on the failures of things that they should have done, they didn't do. And one of them was, and I hadn't done it on yet, was the failure of not releasing the notes. There's no reason to not release the notes. Then there's other things, not putting up the billboards, and not doing flyers. There are simple things you can do. Every deputy that is working, they usually have a clipboard or something that they use to either take reports, write tickets, whatever they're doing. They need to have that porch guy's picture on there on all of them, and every person they talk to, they need to show them that and say, do you know who this might be? You know this case here? And that's a simple little way to do that even. And then of course the billboards, it'd be easy to send the billboards, put them in convenience stores and all that. Those stores will allow you to do it unless the people in Tucson they're so crazy they're beyond help. Well, here's the other thing that happens, and I've seen it with some of the people who do these channels like myself or whoever, and the so-called experts. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm reading some of this stuff here. Yeah, that Zodiac and BTK is those are strange cases themselves, and this is a strange case. This is not a case that you run into very often, for sure. It's not going to be another case like this. you know hey, Paige, glad to have you back. Didn't know you left. I'm sorry. Well, so the problem with a lot of this stuff is there, us talking heads, we talk off. There's one channel called Off the Cuff. We talk off the cuff about things a lot of times, and people misinterpret what we say. I got in trouble with that with the guys on the interview room. Dr. Gary there, he was talking about one night and I think they're going to do something on it tonight. A similar thing I saw from their preliminary thing is, it's a setup or a staged and all that stuff. And so he was saying it was staged, and I had people contacting me, and they were seeing, people were saying that it was staged by the Guthrie family and Nancy herself. So I put out a little video about that, and it got totally misinterpreted. How ridiculous was that? I was saying it couldn't be staged by the family. It wasn't staged by Nancy, and I went through a bunch of stuff. Why? So, but what happened there is I got misinterpreted, just like these other folks that were questioning that I saw. They were misinterpreting also that thing. So somebody from there sent me something and said, you got that all wrong. I had it all wrong for what they meant. I had to clarify myself with them and say, listen, I understand what you're saying, but I was trying to correct these people who were saying that Nancy played along with it and she's hiding out somewhere and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this is this bizarre stuff that comes from these AI generated websites that you got to be careful of. So I kind of fell into that trap myself in a way, trying to correct those people that they're thinking. And then, the interview room thought I was, attacking Dr. Gary, and I wasn't at all. I like him. He's very good. He's good. Have you watched him play piano? He has a channel where he plays piano, and he is good. He's very good. Very good. You ought to check that out sometime. So, what do y'all think about that? On the Cam thing, when Cam said to Savannah, basically, it's your fault. Now, it would be interesting to know, and this is one. Oh man, there's so many rabbit trails I can go on. But one of them is we don't know that they were ever actually interviewed. One of the things I got pulled up here that I'm not going to pull these up and run through them is that Nanos says that they cooperated and we talked to them and all this kind, but he never uses the word interviewed. We interviewed them. That's what I would say. If it was a real investigation, I would say we interviewed them, and then to make sure of everything, we gave them a polygraph test or something like that. None of that is said. He's just saying they're not involved. Basically he's saying, take my word for it, they're not involved. Well, maybe they're not involved, but I wonder if he has enough intellect to understand that if he has not positively eliminated them if they come to trial, a defense attorney will slaughter the homicide guys on the stand because they haven't done that. So who was first to say it's a kidnapping? Here's my question on that. Cam says it's kidnapping right off the bat, and apparently says to his sister I think in a real crude, rude way, that yeah, it's your fault. I don't care if it is her fault. You don't say that to your sister that way, Hey, there's Patriot Pride. How about that? The official, even, huh? Welcome to the channel. Glad you're here. Just trying to have a little chat here for a while. I wasn't sure who was going to show up because this was as the one channel is, off the cuff. This was an off the cuff thing. I'm sitting here. My wife took off for a few hours to go to lunch with somebody. So I said, well, I'm going to practice a little bit on this thing, doing it live. So that's why I'm kind of in here now, and I keep losing my train of thought. So maybe you can help me out with that, Patriot Pride. I know you guys never have that problem. I enjoy your channel, by the way. I don't ever say anything. I just watch. That's like with Tucson. Well, thank you, thank you. The with Tucson, I told him last night. I usually I'm on the East Coast, and I usually, because I have a farm, I get up early and stuff like that, deal with my cows and all. Uh, and I had to go out a little while ago and fix a fence where a couple of my steers tried to go over the fence last night. Uh, that's a mess, and that happens. So the I called. I went to bed about 10 o'clock, so I woke up about 1:30. You know, us old people, we got to go to the bathroom and stuff. So I woke up about 1:30, and I had my phone on, and I'm listening to Tucson every night when I go to bed. I listen to him till I fall asleep, and then I wake up hours later and he's still on. So, you know, I've commented a couple of times. Um, Crystal, how you doing? Uh, Welcome everybody that's in here. I don't know everybody, but I appreciate you so much being in here and listening to this old man talk. Uh, you know, babble on here about some of this stuff. You did that for 17 years and always had a problem. Yeah, you know what? I have a problem almost every day. Them cows, they don't mean to do this, but they're so big they damage stuff. They bust the water loose and everything else. Oh man, where was I? Uh, I really did lose my train of thought. So does anybody got? Oh, I know. I was on Cam. Okay, Cam. I want that question answered. You know what I mean? I want that question. Thank you, Paige. I want that question answered, and that is, how did he? Did she say that, or did he say to her, "You know, this is a kidnapping, don't you?" How did he just know that all right off the bat? And even if you believe that, and I kind of tend to believe this, that Annie and Tommaso, they're at the house when the people got there, they advised the police they believe it was a kidnapping. It was, or something. It wasn't a walk off. They knew it wasn't a walk off. Any basic person would know it wasn't a walk off. The first police officers on the scene, the one who's told another guy where this was it Juanita found it on radio traffic. Anyway, that one officer said, make sure you protect the blood on the front porch. So they knew they had something serious going on early on. So has there been threats before or something like that? Had there been previous communication or threats, or did they just instinctively know this was a kidnapping? Hey, Righteous Monkey, how you doing, man? Nice to have you back in here. You were on one of my first ones. Was a nice guy. I watch your channel too. So, what is it? Does anybody know? What did Cam just guess at, or had they been threatened? These are the things that should have been questioned on the interviews with uh, Annie and Tommaso and Cam and even Savannah. I guarantee you they didn't bring Savannah down to the police station, you know, or any of them, and really have a real interview. not a real interview. I'm not talking about standing there at the house when they should have been out of the house, out of the inside of the house, and just asking some general questions. Then you take them from there down to the station, just like they would of anybody else. If it was me, if it was you, anybody else, guess what? We'd have been headed to the station for some extra questioning. Not an interrogation, not something where you're trying to nail you, but you begin with questions. And if those questions lead to deeper things and all that, you might get into an interrogation. But if you go far enough, I mean, there's a point where you go from a witness to a suspect, and you have to advise that person of their rights. If you don't, that interview that turns into an interrogation will later be thrown out in court if it's to be used. So there's fine lines there from going from a witness to a suspect. Okay, so if they take them to the station as a suspect, they got to advise them of their rights before any questioning, or any questioning that they might compromise themselves on is going to be thrown out. So anyway, they should have been taken to the station, the family, including Savannah, including Tommaso, Annie, and all taken to the station. If Cam was there, taken to the station and separated and talked to. That's an interview. And what are you trying to, basic stuff. You're trying to find out, first off, the victimologies, things about Nancy, that kind of stuff. Then you're trying to find out why Cam would think it's a kidnapping. Why do you think it's a kidnapping, Cam? Have y'all been told, or have you been threatened, or have y'all gotten letters, or are there, is Savannah being stalked, or there's all kinds of questions that should have been happening. Y'all, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this chat thing. So if I'm way behind and you're asking me stuff and I'm not responding, forgive me, because I'm not real used to this stuff, keeping up with it. And when you guys are these big channels, they got all the moderators and stuff to help you a little bit. Yeah, why did Cam assume that? I mean, to me, that's one of the biggest questions. How did they know right off the bat when their mother was missing that it was a kidnapping? That word, not an abduction, but a kidnapping. There's a difference between those two words. To me, there is. A kidnapping for money. It was Cam just that smart that he figured that out? I don't know, but we're not going to know now, because I guarantee you they're not going to get interviewed now. The interview time is over. They're not going to get interviewed now. If you tried to bring them in now, they'd be coming in with their attorneys. Now, if they're innocent, they ought to come in and do anything you want done. Any question you want answered, they're going to answer. Take a polygraph, no problem. All right. A polygraph doesn't, a person can mess up a polygraph by accident. There are people that are really good at beating them, but the majority of people, probably 80% of the people, will either pass or fail, and it would be correct. Yeah, the blood drops on the front porch, for sure. That should have let everybody know there was something violent that happened here. It wasn't a walk off. It never was a walk off. That was established. It should have been established uh, uh, in their own, right off the bat. I mean, the police officers should have established that. There shouldn't have been any question about that, after they got there. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put that up here and see what y'all think. I don't know. That's a little on the wild side for me. I'm not a conspiracy theory person. I'm an Occam's razor person. And usually when I say that, people say, well, it's obvious right in front of you. It's the inner circle. Starts with A and T. Well, I'm not going to say that because I know what happens when you ruin somebody's life by making accusations that is not real. That happened out in Iowa with those 4 girls. The internet went crazy, accusing a lot of these students and people of stuff, you know, even accusing one of the fathers of one of the girls and all that. So, you know, really, people need to tamp it down, just take it easy. And now we all speculate. Let me tell you what. Every one of these detectives, and when they go into their meeting in a task force, you know what they're doing? They're speculating. They're speculating based on the facts. Well, I didn't see your comment, and so I didn't make it disappear, Jets. So, uh, and I don't have any moderators, so there isn't anybody to get rid of you except for me, and I didn't do it. So anyway, if you haven't, Netflix has if you haven't seen that Netflix story, there's two things on Net. Uh, there's two things on Netflix I would recommend to watch. One is the Lockerbie Flight 103 that got blown out of the air and killed 270 people or something. That's an incredible investigation, just absolutely incredible. And I use that as an example in the leads and tips thing I put out, and because they got overwhelmed with hundreds of thousands of leads, which was pieces of the plane. That's their leads. Their leads weren't people calling in saying this, that, or the other thing. That wasn't their leads. Their leads was to try and find out who made the bomb. And the way they did that, it's incredible. You ought to watch it. And then also you ought to watch it because you see how the British and the people in Scotland were. They treated the people just unbelievable. And that's my experience with the British was they're very nice. I went over there in 1990 to train at Scotland Yard on major cases and stuff, and how to do major cases, and they did it totally different than the way we do it in the United States. One of the ways they did, I was going to get on to this later, is the neighborhood. The neighborhood canvas, that um, that they did that they do in England. You wouldn't believe it. They have a broad area, which in the case here of Nancy Guthrie, they didn't do near as broad areas they needed to do. They needed to do at least a mile out, and talk to every person in every house, find out who lives in every house, who's lived in every house, talk to them, identify them, and you'll be surprised what you find. We did that on a case down in Florida on some children that were butchered in a tub, and we got that case, and we had a new commander at the time who he believed in pulling out all the stops on these homicide cases. The average homicide closure rate around the country is about 70%. Well, he wasn't satisfied with that. He said, "We're not going to have only 70%. We're going to have 90% and above." So when we went out on that case, it was like it was on the big case I've been talking about. We pulled out 50 detectives hit the street, and we did a major neighborhood investigation canvas for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, not just up and down the street where, typically how they do these neighborhoods is you go up and down the street that you're on, check them with neighbors. No, he wanted everywhere done for, I don't know, 10 square blocks. And you know what? About 6 blocks over, we found a pedophile, and it turns out he ended up doing it. He was the one who did it. He had targeted these children, seeing them playing out in the yard and stuff. So anyway, well, that's a long story on that one too. My point is the neighborhood canvas they did on this case here wasn't near as broad, as wide, and as detailed as it should have been. I know it wasn't. They a lot of what all they were doing was going around knocking on doors to find out, do you have a camera? Do you have cameras? A neighborhood canvas is a lot more than finding out if people got cameras or not. I know we want the cameras because the cameras can, identify a car or identify, a guy maybe, but it's a lot more than that. It's not just, do y'all have a camera? Because the suspect might live right around there. You don't know that. That's not the case. Anyway, so I would see if somebody wants to come in and talk. Does anybody want to do that? I could probably I don't know. I don't have the link. Where do I find the link at? Oh, I see. Share your referral link. I don't know. No, you know what? I didn't find that earlier. I don't know where it's at. Does anybody know where it's at? Oh, I see it. If somebody wants to come in and talk, I'll let you do it, I guess. As long as you be nice. Be nice to me. So what are y'all's ideas? How are we going to get this case solved now that we're in a desperation mode here by the sheriff is doing his last ditch thing? It's Custer's last stand, man. Or it's the Alamo or something like that. This is what's going on. They're desperate. This is not because they're about to make a big case, make a big splash. It's not that. That's my opinion. No, we'll wait. Wait a few weeks. Wait a month or 2 months, and you see. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think it's because they're ready to make an arrest. I think it's because they don't have anything. Just like Brian Enton's been saying, they have nothing. They have no suspects. They have nothing. Add to the stage. There's Patriots Pride. Let me see if I can find you again. Hey,
what's up, Boomer?
How you doing, man?
I am doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Yeah, I'm awesome. If it was any better, I couldn't stand it.
I heard that, man.
Hey, where are y'all from? Are you from Alabama or something?
No, sir. Go Dogs. We're over here in Georgia,
right
next to you.
Georgia. All right. I'm a Georgia boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Born and bred in Georgia.
Where at in Georgia? What
I was
area?
born in Savannah.
Okay.
But all my folks are actually from the middle of the state around. You ever heard of Claxton or?
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
Lyons or Vidalia Onions.
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with all of them.
All my family was from there, and they were farmers originally from there. So that's where my roots are. But my parents took me to Florida. I hated it, man. I hated it. I was a big time football player. They took me right out of middle school,
Yeah, that's a rough place to go.
And I went to Florida and didn't know anybody. In Georgia, man, Georgia football is a big deal. That's a big deal for Florida. That's a long time ago. But anyway, that was a tough transition for a 15-year-old boy who was all about sports, baseball, football, all that stuff. Now you got to go to Florida and meet all new people and make your way there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's tough, especially coming from Georgia. But
Yeah, yeah,
I
go dogs.
go dogs. I just wanted to jump on for 1 second. I'm actually about to step into an appointment, but I just wanted to
Okay.
say, man, you are doing a great job, and I'm proud of you. And just wanted to show you some support, and let you know that we appreciate all of the insight that you bring. And you seem like a really a good man. So we appreciate all the things that you're bringing and teaching us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.
Yes,
I enjoy
sir.
y'all's channel, by the way. I watch as often as I can. There's a good number of good channels out there, but I
Well,
can't watch them all.
the thing about it is, it's just so great that the community is so supportive.
Yeah,
99% of everybody, and that's what we're all here
absolutely.
to do is help each other out and find the truth, man. That's what it's all about. And I think together, we're collectively we're gonna figure a lot of these things out. And
We're a team. That's the way I look at it.
yes,
We're
sir,
all we're
certainly,
all on the same team. We're not working against each other. We're all on the same team. We need to be pulling in the same direction. Not
100%. Yeah,
not knocking each other down or anything. But
yeah,
anyway,
yes,
that's
sir.
just the way I am. I'm a team guy.
We gotta be. We gotta all work toward a common goal and support one another. Because I always say, at the end of the day, we're always going to need one another.
Amen. We are. So let me ask you something. The dog's going to do it this year
Of course, this is our year again.
again.
I'm predicting undefeated,
All
undefeated
right.
season.
I hope so. I haven't kept up that much with it, but hey, college football is my time of year.
Oh
I
yes,
really, I really don't care much about professional football, but I watch college football, man.
yes,
I
sir.
like,
The fall in college
yeah,
football is my favorite.
yeah, me too.
But hey, I look forward to hopefully doing some
Okay,
things together in the future, man. And I'm gonna step in here to this 2:30 I got, and we'll
okay.
see. We'll,
Take
we'll
care.
see you.
Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything you're
Thanks for the
doing.
kind words. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Well, that was nice of him to come in and say a few nice things about this old guy babbling over here. I wish I was a lot more familiar with all this stuff. I'm going to have to practice. I hate to practice on you people, but the I need to put the sheriff in here and let him babble on a while, and then y'all will turn off the channel for sure. It was nice of him, very nice, very nice. I enjoy their channel. Those guys are uh, they're different. They're just good old boys. Man, uh, let me see. Somebody says here, I still think it's somewhere within a few blocks, likely walking or riding an e-bike. He probably went by all the time. Hey, that's all possible. That's why I was saying that they needed to do a superior uh, neighborhood canvas. We used to just call it a neighborhood, but it's neighborhood canvas. You know what? That's why that needed to be done, because you can't rule that out until you've done it. I saw. I have one queued up here. It's really good, but I don't want to put y'all through all that, and I'm not going to be able to stay on forever anyway. But and I so appreciate y'all coming on. I appreciate the support so much. I really do, because I'm not used to doing this kind of stuff. But I forgot. Oh man, I lose my train of thought again. Gonna have to take some Prevagen. You know, they needed to do a better neighborhood, because there's so much. It's like surveillance used to be. People in It's amazing in police work. We hated surveillance. Man, surveillance was so valuable. You could find out so much about with surveillance, and they didn't ever do on homicides. Believe it or not very much surveillance. And when I came in, because I came from a different background in narcotics, where we did a lot of surveillance. Man, I started having them do surveillance and stuff, and we busted some big cases with surveillance. So we had a great surveillance team of 12 people and a supervisor. They were really good. So, are y'all hearing me okay? Because I'm a good ways away from my mic here. Uh, anyway, back to this case. I'm sure hoping, but that's what we're all doing. We're just hoping. We're just hoping. And I saw this guy I had queued up here, and he was talking about they had thousands and thousands of cases, and then he gets to the end. I mean, he says they've already run down all those cases. They got no leads left. Then at the end of it, he says they got thousands of leads. Let me tell you what, they are not done with those leads. I'll guarantee you can't have as many leads as they've had. I'll just say between 20 and 40,000 leads. You can't have that many leads. And you just can't have that many leads and be done with it. Not quality anyway. Y'all probably never seen a manure spreader. If you ever seen a manure spreader pull behind a tractor, how it flings out the manure to fertilize with? Well, I think that's how they've been doing those leads. They just been flinging them out, and they try to find. Everybody thinks they're going to find the right perfect lead. No, you have to go through all of them. Yeah, there's a lot of junk in there, but you got to go through the junk. You might find some junk. This what is the Thornburg Bridge X new channel that's out with Jen and Glenn. Uh, Man, they got a beautiful setup, and I don't know who does their charts and all. Glenn probably does, but he does some beautiful charts. Well, with all that, they tried to do a call in to the FBI, and Jen got kind of rejected, and she got a taste of what it's like. They just tossed her lead out because they'd already kind of heard about this before. This group from south of the border. They'd already heard about that before, so they already tossed that. So as soon as Jen calls in, they go, we that's no good. We've heard about that. I mean, that's not exactly what they said, but I know the attitude because I've seen the attitude. I've gotten rid of the attitude. I didn't care for attitude on my team. No attitudes. You better have the right attitude if you want to stay on my team. And that right attitude is that you're going to push to get this over with, and to find it, not to just get it over with. I think they just want to get it over with now. That's one of the problems. They're just wanting to get it over with. And I know that the FBI don't want it. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what they think. The FBI does not want this case now. They do not. Well, unless somebody else has some earth-shattering reason why, or somebody wants to get on the channel and talk, give me how you can solve this case. I might have to end this. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes, and unless I'm going to bring some of this. Okay, well, I can do a lot of that. Paige says, just got yeah. Well, it's thinking outside the box a little bit, folks. Those billboards. We were probably one of the first agencies in the country to use billboards. This was back in 1990. Now, I did look that up, and there was some earlier on, but it was not a commonplace. Now it's a commonplace. We started using the billboards, and then we had the case closed using the billboards. Then it got real. Then it got real commonplace, and everybody started putting up the billboards. And just the billboards going up, it's not necessarily. It's a way in which you keep the people involved, because as Nano says on his last little interview from his little office there with his own people doing the interview, we know somebody out there knows something. We want them to come forward and say something, tell us about it. All right, that's the absolute truth. It is. When the FBI, when I went to Quantico and got a profile on the one case I had there, that was a single case. Now it wasn't a serial. The guy's a serial killer, but we didn't know about his other murders. But anyway, he they gave us, which was an unusual thing, a composite, or not a composite, a profile. They gave us a profile, and but when I left there, the last things that they told me is Boomer, get this in the press. You need to get it activated again, because we were already a year out. It had gone cold. So we were trying to reactivate it. And they said, you need to go back and get it in the press. Okay. So, I mean, that's what I did. I came back with that profile, and the press always wants something new. So we now had a profile. So we had a reason to have a press conference. So I did a press conference, and we had done a lot of other stuff too. And truth is, I learned from that press conference, they could not handle all the information I gave them. They couldn't print about it all. And I wasted a lot of stuff that I could have used later to get more press conferences, you know? So I went through a year and a half of doing press conferences quite often, and then at one point it got where I was calling press conference. That's because our community was really into it. And what I don't see in Tucson is the community really into it. It's unfortunate, but our community was really into it. The whole Tampa Bay area was really into it. So the press was really into it. So um, what we tried to do was get it back in the press and keep it in the press. So I do these press conferences. And one time they told me, "Hey, Sergeant Boomer," because everybody called me Sergeant Boomer. They didn't call me by my last name. I said, "Hey, Sergeant Boomer." They said, "You got anything new this time?" And then one of them pulled me and said, "Hey, man, you gotta have some new stuff." It was new stuff, but they wanted real new stuff. So I learned how to use the media, and that's what you got to do. Use the media, and you got to strategically do things. I mean, I did things in the media that they didn't realize I was doing. Oh my goodness. We had these anonymous phone calls that come in. You think they're anonymous? I mean, this was back in 1991 or so, 90, 91, 92. Anonymous. We had an anonymous tip line, and we had a person call in and said in such an emphatic way, "I know who did it. I know." And he said, and in our case involved the blue and white boat. They said he's got the blue and white boat, and he named off some other things, and I know who did it. But then he said, I can't tell you because they'll kill me. And the reason is the person he couldn't tell us was a police officer. He thought that police officer was the one, and he thought that police officer would kill him. So anyway, the call ended without us getting his name or anything else, whoever the call taker was. So, oh man, we've traced that call. They think it can't be traced. Well, back even in the day, now everything's a lot easier. We traced that call. We knew who it was that called us. And then we started doing surveillance on him. And we found out he likes to go to this certain bar. In England, they would call it a pub in his neighborhood. So we did some surveillance on him, and he's sitting at the bar, and we send in one of our undercover guys who's really good with a newspaper. And I had released, we set this up, uh, and I had released some information in a newspaper just for this guy to read. So we sent our undercover guy in, sits down next to him with a paper. The stuff's on the front page, actually. Sits down next to him and just sits there and starts talking to him for a second. And after he's been there talking a couple of beers, our guy says, "Hey, have you seen this here?" And the guy, like, anyway, the end result was, I won't tell you all the other tactics we used, but the end result was we got him in, found out who he's talking about, and it was a police officer. So anyway, there are things you can do. You got to think outside the box, man, to get these things done. Boomer, worked with police 19 years, crime prevention, missing person, gifted and proven Christian ladies. Right. All right. Nina, nice to have you, Nina. Anybody that can work anywhere near 20 years. Man, we used to have I was on what's called the 20-year pension plan. I went 30 years, but at one time it was so our city was very political. So guys hated it. So, sometimes you would, I was riding in the elevator one time with a guy, and I said, "How much longer you got?" He said, 12 years, man. It was guys talking in prison, 12 years. Oh man. So I won't tell you what I told him, but anyway, it was, it wasn't fun for a lot of it because it was so political. Then it calmed down between a couple of different chiefs that we had. It got calmed down a little bit, and then it got worse again. So, and when I left, it was not good, and I'd had enough of the politics. Believe it or not in a sheriff's department, but in a police department where the police chief is appointed by an elected mayor. Now you think you'd be separated from the politicalness of it, but you're not. The police chief is political too. He's political, trying to save his behind. That's what happens on most of this stuff. People are trying to save their behind. Sheriff Nanos right now is trying to save his behind. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. They need to do some really creative stuff, and I think they need to start over. I had a video out a while back where uh, the my whole thing was about start over. Need to start over. They need to start over, review everything they've done at this point. They definitely need to do that now. They're in a desperation mode. The next thing you need to do is start over and redo a whole lot of things. Not redo all the leads, but you need to what I discovered a lot of times on these homicide cases, you're so embroiled in the case, the guy, the lead detective or whoever. They're so embroiled in the case and the day-to-day real fast. It's going real fast. You watch 8 hours, homicide show and all that. You'll see how fast it goes. They're just bouncing from one witness to the other and back and forth and everything else. And you got officers that are turning in officers, both patrol officers and detectives that are, going out and doing things, and they're writing reports and they're turning them in. And here's what happens. There's nobody reading those reports to begin with. I think it might get read much later, but nobody's reading them to begin with. And so it just comes in and they put it in the murder book. The detective might stand next to a homicide guy and give him a little verbal whatever. But there's things always in those reports that are lost, so to speak. And I think some of y'all probably watched old Brew Crew Charles over there, and he beat me to making this statement a while back. on a video he did, which is something I said to my wife all the time. I said, listen, the answer is in the file. The answer is in the file. And the answer is a lot of times in the file, especially on these cases where you have thousands and thousands and thousands of leads and all kinds of work being done. You know, that's what these cold case guys find out. They go through those murder books, they call them. They read through that and they go, you know, that one case up in Delphi, the Delphi one. That's what happened there. That was 5 years old or whatever. And, you know, a guy comes in a cold case and he's reading through the book and he finds this lead where this guy had actually come in and basically said, I did it. How's that happen? But anyway, he ended up being the guy. So that happens. Yeah, Brew Crew over 50. That's him. Man, that guy can talk. He's a lot better than I am at the talking part. But you know, he talks it up pretty good. He's got a good channel going. People like him. You know, so there you go, Western Hemisphere. That's exactly what I believe. I think the sheriff wants it to go away. I cannot imagine the FBI is not doing everything they can to help solve this. I think they are. FBI is trying to do that. But as far as them taking it over, you know, first off, they would have to get Nanos's permission. It's a state case. Now, technically, it could be a federal case, but you're going to have to, but, you know, in this case here, all heck is going to break loose if the FBI says we're taking this case. Now, if you had an absolute travel across state lines or travel out of the country or something like that, then it becomes a federal case with no questions. But as it stands right now, that's not the case. And it's in the jurisdiction and the claim of the sheriff's department. So, and it's so messed up, like I talked about earlier here, it's so messed up that the FBI don't want it now. Now, that doesn't mean they're not trying. All the people that are in there, all the FBI agents that are in there, whoever they are, which is only a handful, it's already been admitted to, it's only a handful. Only a handful. A handful to do this case, thousands and thousands of cases. I cannot stress this enough. They have thousands of leads that have not really been looked at. I guarantee you. There's no way they've been able to go through all of what they have in this time frame. They've gone through what they, you know, the first 2 or 3 guys, the guys that they did the search warrants all, you know, and they haven't come up with much else than that, unless they're working on A&T or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe most of the leads that are come in are junk. You know, I call them tips. There's a difference between tips and leads. A lead is something you got something you can go out and do something on. You know, people call in all the time. They do things. Well, I think the gardener did it, or you know, I think the pool man did it. The poor old pool man, you know, or something else. You know, those are not leads. Those are, we'll call them tips, but they're tips that really aren't going to help anything. All they do is clog up the system. So, but they have to be gone through. You know, like I put out this video yesterday. If you haven't seen it, it talks about the different 2 systems that the sheriff's office has and the FBI have. The 2 systems don't talk to each other. That is a major problem. And neither one of them are made for doing a major case in isolation. And that's what you need. Now, even though your system should go out, and in other words, if you put somebody in your major case part, it should search your whole database for that person. Okay, there's no question about that. But there's something about having it isolated in its own little case, in which you don't get all, you know, you can anyway, without me going into it, that's the way the Holmes computer worked. The one I went to England to get trained over there for a couple of weeks on major cases and to learn about their home system. Brought it back to America and we installed it in our police department and we used it for that major case. Without that, we couldn't have done it. There's no way. I saw that in the beginning of that case. Whenever we reviewed it, we took 2 weeks to review that case of 12 of us sitting around a table all day long reading. And then, I discovered real quick, I just read this report here. Hey, I saw that guy's name somewhere else. I saw it, but where was it? And I started going through the other books. It took me 20 minutes to find that other report that mentioned this guy. Well, you can't work like that. You know what? We had there was, like on TV, you see the guys with the murder book. You ever watch Bosch? I love Bosch show. But anyway, their murder book. It's maybe 1 4-inch binder. That's what most smoking gun murders are. But when you get into these other ones, like in that case I'm telling you about, we had over 100 4-inch binders full of paperwork. But in the beginning, we had about 6 4-inch binders, 6 4-inch binders that had all these reports in it. Because in the beginning, in the first month or so, I mean, we had people on the street. We were working a lot of stuff. Anyway, but you can't find anything because the system, we weren't computerized at the time to do that. And anyway, that's a long story. I just know from experience that if they've gotten this many leads, they have not gone through them all like they should. It's like when you're searching for something and you go to all the obvious places first, then you don't find it. Now you got to go back and check all the other ones too. But they just haven't done it. I guarantee you they haven't done it. They have not gone through all the leads, and they have not made certain leads valuable. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you what, this goes back to the Jen and Glenn story of their call to Mexico. That group that searches for bodies down there found 5 bodies. They have somebody that keeps calling them and telling them they were paid to take the body and bury it. Now, that might be a pipe dream lead. It might not be true at all, whatever, but it deserves to be checked out. Now, the reason I say that is from my own personal viewpoint. When I first heard about the Nancy Guthrie case and I heard about her being kidnapped, the very first thought that went through my mind was cartel. Why? Because this cartels, that's one of their favorite things to do is kidnap people and keep them for ransom and all this kind of stuff. Now, people got, I mentioned that to some, I mentioned some on the internet and stuff. He says, no, they said in the cartel, this cartel wouldn't get involved in this. You know what I mean? I said, listen, I wasn't talking about the cartel. I said it was cartel-like. In other words, this is like the cartel does. It's probably, and my opinion was, this is probably somebody who's been involved with them. Now I understand there's a whole nother group that's not the cartel, but they are, I forget what the name of them is. I can't pronounce those names, but they are like a cousin. And a lot of those guys live in the United States now. They're here illegally, and they live in the United States now. And they've been trained on how to do this kind of stuff. Marianne, how you doing? Tucson's in the house, really? Oh, there he is. Hey, I didn't see that. Tucson, how you doing, man? You want to come on and talk? We didn't talk enough last night, did we? Anybody that wants to come on and talk, you can come on and talk. Anyway, at Tucson now, he's a good guy. He really is. I've been watching him for 6 months, and I'm not easily fooled. He's a good guy. Good to fuck. Thank you, Tucson, man. That's nice. He's a good guy. He treats everybody really He tries to be good to everybody. He tries to help everybody. And everybody's not like that. So, and I really believe he got he wants the best for Tucson, the Tucson area. He's trying his best to do what he can in that area. So, and he's got a nice little following out there. I don't know where all his following comes from, but he's got a nice following. Yeah, I stumbled on him on the Nancy Guthrie case. The first person I stumbled onto was, y'all know who this one is, JLR, right? He's got such a huge following. But anyway, I watched him day after day after day. And then I started picking up on some of the other guys, Dad's Gone Live, Shark Guy, and all that kind of stuff. And so started following all those. And Damien here on Tucson, he stayed consistent. So that's how I got stuck on his channel. He was consistent. He was there all the time. You're in a listening mode today. Okay, David. That's good. That's good. That's what I do on your channel all the time. I'm just in a listening mood. I go to sleep listening to you. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Oh man. No, but I don't know. I'm sick. I can't get enough of this stuff. I do have some other cases I want to go deal with. I got one here in the area where I live in South Carolina where a lady went missing. Her name was Elena Moore, and she went missing, and then they found her body and everything else. And I went out and I did some, after the police left and everything else, I did some surveillance. I went down where the scene was, where they found her body, did some videotaping down there and all. But I just never released it. One of the problems is my daughter knows the family and stuff. She was upset that it's the same old thing. The woman has a husband, and everybody in the area on Facebook and everybody else says he did it and all that. Well, maybe he did. I don't know. But she was found in the woods somewhere, And so, anyway, I got one ready to go on that, and probably around this area in South Carolina, it might be popular. But I've hesitated. I'm waiting for the autopsy report. The initial autopsy report on her was inconclusive on her cause of death. She didn't have any bruising. Nothing that she wasn't shot, stabbed, or strangled or anything like that. So it's probably drugs or something like that. So I'm waiting for the autopsy report to see if I want to get involved with that. But I got some good video down in the woods and all, right where her body was found. I have a theory on that where she was and how she was found, but we'll see. Nancy Guthrie, though, that's the one we want to get done here. I don't think it's ever going to get done. Not in the next week or two, anyway. Let's hope somebody just comes and turns himself in. Somebody contacts old Damien with Tucson there and says, "Hey, I got a story for you." You think he'd freak out if somebody did that? Well, maybe so. Let's see, yeah, Western Hemisphere, you got it right. They need to go back and re-interview lots of people. Hey, that woman that Brian Enton found that saw this guy walking through her neighborhood or wherever that was in her neighborhood. I don't remember. Do y'all know? Was she ever contacted prior to Brian Enton finding her by the police to be interviewed, or did he find her first? Yeah. Y'all ever watch Grady Judd? He's got a huge following. I just watched one of his videos. He does almost a everyday thing. He's got a huge following too, man. Huge following. I love him though. He's good. they don't take anything off of anybody there. And he's so good at how he delivers all these stories and things like that. He's a storyteller. He's a real sheriff now, real sheriff. I don't know that all them sheriffs down in Florida appreciate him the way they should, but they probably do. You know, guys, I think we're running up on an hour and 45 minutes, and I know a lot of y'all got things to do too. My wife's gonna be home here in a few minutes. She'll say, "What are you doing?" I'm playing. Anyway, hey, if you come up with any ideas or anything, well, I hope so too, but I'm not holding out any hope for that. I'm not holding out any hope for that Western Hemisphere. I don't think the FBI is going to take it. Now, nobody wants to hear that. Hey, Tucson, see you, man. You have a good evening. Good afternoon. Yeah, Grady Judd needs to give classes. You're right. to Nanos. You know, I just don't think they want it. Not now. They would have taken it in the beginning. I really do believe that. They would have taken it in the beginning. And I think things would have probably been different. But I don't think they want it now. It's too much of a hot potato. And believe it or not, Kash Patel and all those they're political. They're political guys. They're not he's not elected, but he's political. You know, and he doesn't want to be booted out. He wants to have a successful term as the FBI director. And right now, if he takes it and then he don't close it, he's going to have egg on his face that he don't want. And these are the realities of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of you don't know about. I can tell you so much about that case that I was on. The police department, after a while, they wanted to dump it. They were doing everything they could to dump it. But one of the things they didn't understand I was doing, I kept it live with the media, so they couldn't dump it. Till they got to a point where this one chief came in and he gave me so much time. He says, "You got till this much time, and we're shutting it down." So we did the same thing Nanos is doing right now, pulling out all the stops, because we didn't have any suspects either. You know, this case right here he's got right now, unless it comes back to the inner circle, and I know there's a ton of people that believe that, okay? And I'm not saying I don't believe that. I'm just not willing to say that at this point. I don't want to destroy people's lives. So anyway, this is an unknown whodunit. We had an unknown whodunit. There was no connection whatsoever to this tourist family that came to Florida. None. Zero. You know, we did all the victimology on all the family members and everything else, and we knew everything about them. I mean, you know, everything. We spent a ton of time figuring that out to see what connection we can make. There was no connection. This was a predator on the prowl who got these ladies. So it was a real whodunit. It wasn't anything you had anything to connect with. And it wasn't something where, you know, a lot of times on these cases, somebody does something and they mess up later and you catch them later, 2 or 3 murders later. If it was a serial killer, you know, in our case, we didn't have that mess up. We were hunting a guy that was a prowler. I mean, a predator. And he was a predator. He was a predator all the time hunting. So now Nanos's case here is not necessarily that. But whoever this porch guy is, this ain't his first rodeo either. This ain't the first time out for him. He was way too calm on that porch. For one thing, there's several different ways you can slice it, and we won't argue about that. But whoever it was on that front porch, he knew about. He was very comfortable there. And then on top of that, he was so calm, cool, and collected. He wasn't threatened by anything. He wasn't spooked. He was calm, cool, and collected as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. So whoever that was, it's not his first rodeo either. And that's probably part of what a profile would say. This guy is done things like this before. That's why I think it's cartel like. He's done things like this before, and he's got a rap sheet. This isn't. I don't know though. Coffindorfer really got off on this wrench attack thing, and she gets on a tangent. She goes pretty hard at it. And I'm not saying she's still on that or she's not on that, but she made it sound so easy. You just hire a couple of teenagers and go do it. Maybe so. I guess if they're hardened teenagers and gangs and stuff like that, yeah, maybe that might work. But I don't think this guy's one of those. That's just my opinion. I think he's more seasoned than that, even though we want to say he's a dummy. He's so dumb. He's been unable to avoid capture for 6 months, and probably did not leave any DNA that we got inside the house. Now, maybe there is. I don't think you can have a bite light in your mouth without dispensing saliva on it. And if you take that thing in and out, even though you got rubber gloves on, right, and you touch something, the question is, did they swab the right areas? That's why they should have never released that scene. Never. I mean, that's a major violation. And then they released it before the FBI had their chance at it. Huh? The most premier group of forensic scientists and technicians in the country, and you don't let them do it before you release it? Oh my goodness. That's going to be so bad in court. You ain't going to believe it. The jury a defense attorney will slap butcher them. I'm telling you, I've been in these depositions with these attorneys. I've testified in court, and I know what they'll do to you. They slice you and dice you. They make you look like a fool. Well, they're going to have that big one, the sheriff, on there, because he's the one responsible. It's not the FBI. The FBI was willing to help. I mean, I totally believe that Kash Patel and his group was fully on board 100% to help. And this guy just rejected them. I mean, that's almost an unforgivable sin right there, to do that. Why? Because of your ego? Are you kidding me? I got his face up here on this other screen. I'm going to have to turn it off. I'm getting sick. Okay, guys, I'm going to shut it down now unless somebody's got something earth-shattering to talk to me about. That wants to come on and talk or anything. I'm going to shut it down and go eat me some lunch. Go see if my steers are going to be inside the fence that I had to repair today. I just went over there I got a couple of steers I'm feeding out. And then I was going to show, I will sometime. I was going to show you my 4 babies I got, little calves. Oh, they're beautiful. On my farm, I got 12 cows now. 12. I had 18 at one time. At one time we had 20, but 18 recently, and I had to get rid of a few because the drought's killing us, man. We don't have good grass, and they got to have grass. You're not a cattle rancher. You're a grass rancher. If you don't have grass, you can't grow your cows out. I mean, that's what they eat, grass, and I have to sometimes supplement them with some grain to keep them going. And then I feed out a couple of steers that are going to feed us with some grain toward the end to help get a little of that fat inside of them. Because, yeah, did y'all know that when they process deer meat, if you just ate just most people do sausage and stuff. You know what they mix in with? Cow fat to make the sausage tasty. if you don't have any fat in your meat there, so people always want grass fed, and that's what we got. We got grass fed, and legally it's grass fed even if we feed them. This is a little farm lesson for y'all today. Even if we feed them a little bit the last couple of months, but anyway, grain. But all full grass fed beef, but no, those cows don't have any fat in there, and the taste is not there like you want. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's your farm lesson for today. This is Old Boomer. I'm going to sign off. Thank y'all so much for tuning in and all, and listening to me babble on, and hopefully I'll learn how to. Pinellas County's not the same about you. Oh, y'all are so nice. I'm going to learn how to do this stuff a little bit better and pull these things in and talk about them a little bit more, kind of like Chris McDonough does and some of the others do, and breaking it down. But today I was just decided to sign on and practice a little bit. Thanks for allowing me to practice today. Y'all take care. This is Old Boomer signing off. See you next time.